Continuing on with the patches for this week, we'll look at number 4. This patch just shows how you can use a series of messages to control the frequency of an oscillator and have that all happen, at the click of your mouse. In this case, I've got a single oscillator and I've got different pitches that can be triggered with these messages. Probably have to reset the audio. Yep. And then I have another oscillator that will modulate the amplitude of this first oscillator. So if I've set that value to 1, it's creating this fade in, fade out, twice a second or with 1 hertz. And remember that goes above and below the x-axis. That's why it's happening twice a second. And then the graphing takes place over here. If I set this back up, you can see the amplitude change from the primary oscillator. All right, let's take a look at the set phase example. So this is the same system. I've got a primary oscillator, then an amplitude modulating oscillator. I could set to 1. Now if I were to trigger this bang, the first thing it does is write to this table, wait 100 milliseconds, and then set the phase of this oscillator. So you can see every time I click it, we're setting the phase to 0. So I could also set the phase to, say, 0.5. So you can see that's at the bottom of the wave. If I set to 0.25, or 0.75. So that always fades in when I click that. And then these change the pitch just as before. I could set this to 0.5. Good. Okay, let's take a look at the delay arpeggio. So we know that the delay object delays a bang message, and these are bangs. So I can make a bang, Command Shift B, or input. I can put that there. I could print what comes off of a bang. At least I think I can. Yep, so every time I click the bang, it sends the message bang. Pretty complicated. Then what delay does is it takes the incoming bang and waits this amount of time in milliseconds before outputting a bang. So I could set this to 500. It waits half a second. I could set it to 1000, and it delays the bang by 1 second. This is our synthesizer, just as before, simple oscillator, sine tone, with 4 possible pitches. But now I've got it set up so that I can trigger first this pitch after a 150 millisecond delay. Then we have this delay chain that's being used. And all that means is that it's a delay hooked up to a set of other delays, each one routed to a message, and the delays are chained so that the bangs are taking place in sequence. And in this case, it loops back around. So if I were to disconnect this one, it stops. And if I wanted to start it over, so if you want to stop a chain like this, or if you want to stop a delay before it outputs a bang, you have to send it a message. Remember, it has that cutaway right there. Send it a message with the word stop. And in this case, I just connected that message to all of the delays, so I didn't have to catch the chain right at the right moment in order to make it stop. So we can hear that like this. Good. So there are other ways to do kind of repetitive triggering, and one of the primary ways is with the Metro object. So the Metro object is like a delay object, except it keeps outputting bangs over and over again. And in this case, it takes a 1 or a 0 to turn it on or off. And now we're getting these bangs put out every 161.8 milliseconds. I can set that to any value that I want. I can change it over time, speed it way up, slow it way down. And so this little example here is a single oscillator with 2 pitches, but I'm using 2 metros to kind of fight over what pitch they want the oscillator to play. And since they have different speeds, we get this interesting pattern. And in particular, I'm going to set them to just barely apart from one another. You get this cool pattern. I'll slow it down a bit. Kind of a neat little example there. I'll disconnect. So I can also use the Metro with the toggle object. So you can do that with put toggle or Shift Command T and connect that to the left inlet of the Metro, and that the toggle outputs a 1 or a 0 basically, so kind of like an on-off message. So I can control that left inlet with the toggle and the right inlet with a number box, and then visualize with the bang. Set this to 500 and then toggle on, toggle off. So the Metro is very handy for controlling things that you want to turn on and off with any kind of timing.